I am in a privileged position in that I am basically a sixth generation educator. Now I'm an engineer and I'm really the first person in my family to really go into engineering, but I can't say that education has not, it's sort of in my DNA. Generations of people just teaching, I mean, since slavery times. And so I benefited from that. Like I've always come from a family that valued education. And in my journey to becoming an engineer, and I have a PhD in agricultural engineering. And that meant that when I got my PhD, I was the third Black woman in the world to get a PhD in agricultural engineering. And I thought to myself, how many people, how many Black engineers are there that would be willing maybe to go back to try to change things for the next generation? Because I really didn't see anything changing. Nothing was changing in our education system. Um, and I said, I'm going to be that person to do that. Programming that I saw did not address the main issues, which was children of color didn't have that academic foundation. You have to be proficient, you have to be excellent to be in these spaces. And in Michigan, for example, less than 10% of Black 12th graders are proficient in math. So that means 90% of our 12th graders are graduating. They're not proficient in math. This is not advanced. They're just not proficient. So that means they can barely do basic math. This is not sustainable for our society. In order for our community to win, all children have to have a good education. And the kids we serve, they have a lot of needs as well. They have they're incarcerated parents that are addicted to stuff. They're foster kids. They've been sexually assaulted. They have all kinds of issues. They're poor. Their poverty itself is a stressor. Sometimes I'm surprised. I'm like, how can these children, with all they're going through at home, some of them are immigrants, some of them just all kinds of stuff, been through all kinds of stuff. Um, how can they get up and come every day for a summer program for 5 or 6 weeks, when they could be at home? How do they, given all that they are going through, still show up after school to get these, additional resources? But I believe that, when you have a child that wants to get out of poverty and they have that determination and drive, how can we not help them? They're in failing schools. If we're not in these spaces, um, even some of the most brilliant kids just will never have a chance. We're so busy doing the work, we can't be in every space. That's why it's a blessing to have organizations like the Woodson Center who are advocating on your behalf. I'm not in that space. I don't know this person. I'm just doing my job. But for someone, an organization to come alongside and say, okay, we're going to help you so that you can do this good work. And we want to see these kids grow and be blessed too. So how can we help you? It's a selfless, very selfless thing. But 6 years ago, my budget was $28,000 a year. That meant I spent 5 years. I couldn't even give myself a salary for 6 years. I didn't have the privilege of just getting a big chunk of money. I had to do the work, show that it worked, because kids were, they were having multiple years of gain of math proficiency in my programs. But once I had that data, then I could go back and say, okay, this has been working. I need more support. But even still, when you're getting started, so many organizations, they don't necessarily want to support the infrastructure. So for example, this past summer, when all those pictures you saw, well, we had 60 students that were in high school that we were hiring. Okay. So that means they had a summer job, and their summer job was not only taking math and science classes, but they were learning how to develop lesson plans so that they could teach them in the community. So that means I need HR, because I'm not a professional at hiring 15-year-olds. I mean, this is hard work. We need a legal, making sure we have liability releases and all these sort of things. Those are all those sorts of supports that, perhaps I wouldn't have thought about 6 years ago. But as I have built capacity, I know I need to protect myself. I know I need professionals in these things. And so having support like this is just it's a blessing, because it can be used where it's needed most. Like if I want to build capacity, if I want to reach more kids, and like in weeks can serve maybe 1,000 kids a year. Like that's crazy. Um, and so, finding donors who are willing to bless you, I mean, it's critical.